The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Ah, there it is. You tuned into the Farron Dozier Show on nbradio.us, TikTok edition, and Live Sports. Catch me here Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, only on nbradio.us. Shout out. How'd I do? Was that a good take? That might be. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh,
too,
man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. Do you know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org.
It's the guts and it's the glory, 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop, and his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, pay the ultimate price. Oh. touching life. Hey. Hey.
Do I need to say anything after that? I don't think so. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. We appreciate you for tuning and listening in today. As always, we have a very important, spectacular show for you right here on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. Also, catch me Sundays at 8 p.m. on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, where you can catch another version of the Farron Dozier Show, mixed with some Sports Collective TV, media, and radio segments as well. Today, I have a guest who, as I put in the social media in the post, that we're actually on Beyond 2D yesterday with Jessica. But then I was reminded that when I first met Jessica around 2021, my guest was, I was on a show with them. And so I'm looking back like 2021, that's 4 years ago that we interacted on an episode, and he was a guest yesterday. I didn't even realize, when she said who was going to be our guest, and until I seen his face, and then he reminded me, and I'm like, oh, that's right. So he's here today to bless us, to be a part of this conversation. He is a veteran as well, and so by this being a platform for my brothers and sisters at arms, and also for our first responders, family members who have shows here. We thank MB Radio for this platform, giving veterans a voice. I'm grateful to be able to have my show come back and be on this platform. I've been doing the Farron Dozier Show / Trench Talk / Black GI Radio since 2013. And so having an opportunity to come back here and find a home for my military segments has been a blessing. This QR code right here, if you hit that QR code, you could go there and actually donate to the organization. They provide the platform for us as well. So if you would like to be a part of this conversation and move this conversation forward with other veterans as they come here, that's going to need the space and the microphones and the things like that they may need support in, and maybe pay some bills with us, because this stuff ain't free. They are open to your donations. It's a nonprofit organizations as well. I want to just start off with some sports. My team, the co-owner of the Inland Empire Hounds, iahounds.com. We had our season opener and great turnout. We won that game as well. So you can go to iahounds.com or at iahoundsaba on Instagram and see some highlights there. So we are now 2-1, and we move to San Diego the 6th and 7th in a doubleheader. One of the top teams in our division, and then a new team, the San Diego Mob, Mind Over Basketball, is actually, they haven't lost a game yet. So they're like we were last year when I took over the Hounds. They are like 7-0 or 5-0 right now, and so it's a good feeling when you're undefeated starting out the season. But we here to take away some of them zeros, because the Suns, they're also I think they're 5 or 6-0 right now. So these two teams haven't lost a game. We lost one game, and so we're coming to take some of them, make one of them zeros a one for them. So just make sure you check us out at iahounds.com. If you'd like to be a part of our brand, we are looking for companies to join forces with us as we talk about sickle cell trait, mental toughness. For the Love of Dogs is our campaign, our main campaign. That's one of the, because we're the Inland Empire Hounds, I had to put my dog Daisy down a couple years back and just never really dealt with that grief. And so taking over the Inland Empire Hounds was a great opportunity for me to take that energy, that grief, and put it into this basketball program. So For the Love of Dogs is the campaign that we have. So we're working with organizations in the community that are taking care of the fostering and the spay and neuter and just all the things that if you look out in the world today, there's a lot going on around dogs and cats. and the fostering and just the finances. And so we want to be a part of that. I just don't have the heart for another dog right now. So this is my contribution to the community to help raise money, share some of our profits to get people to start to supporting those conversations. Very, very important. So I've got with the public health department, I've gotten with the animal care for San Bernardino County, other small nonprofits. So you can go to IE Hounds ABA on Instagram and check that out. What else? Yeah, that's pretty much my intro as far as what's current. Of course, Thanksgiving is coming up, so my family, my sister, and my niece is here in town from Georgia. So just being able to be with family, just being able to be with family, and even through some of the tough conversations, to be that light sometimes and just help settle some discussions or give another perspective of life. And so guess what? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Another perspective of life. Brett reminded me in our conversation yesterday, I've had so many different shows the last 15 years, but I had put one show on the back burner called The Gray Area. And a lot of times, in conversations when it comes to human beings, some people just want it to be a black and white. This is what it is and this is what it ain't. Well, there is a part of life that is that black and white. But when you come up with human beings and conversations and different ideas and different views and different perspectives and perceptions and interpretations, some of that stuff is not black and white. Some of it has to be a gray area so that you can actually maybe give up your position and listen to how another person got to be where they are in life. Right? Maybe the gray area is where we ask more questions in the gray area before we can get to the black and white. So when Brett mentioned that yesterday, I was like, man, I got off that talk yesterday. Like, man, that was one of my favorite shows that I've done that I put on the back burner. And then shouts out to Jessica for yesterday's Beyond 2D, red, blue, and everything in between was our political conversation. And I have a show that I'm holding on to right now called America, Tell the Truth. And that show is based off just bringing people to the table to share their backgrounds, to share what had your great-great-grandfather come to this country, right? Because when you look at that and the relatedness of it being a human being, there's so much stuff about politics and race and opinions. And I believe that if we are able to have a conversation and allow ourselves to listen to other people's backgrounds and other people's life experiences, that you may find out that you're not much different than that other person. That a lot of families came to this country fleeing their own country for a better opportunity, from famine, from being killed. Like, there was a lot going on in history that we know of. And it's not just blacks coming here because of slavery, right? That's one conversation, but there's a lot of people came here for other reasons. And my question is, have they healed from why they got here? And if we tell the truth, maybe not. So America Tell the Truth is going to be based on that conversation of having people come on and talk about what they know about their ancestors, where their grandparents came from, the great grandparents, and why they came here. And then in that space, guess what you might hear? You might hear something that was like, man, well, we came here similar, but the impact of it emotionally is relatable, right? Because that sense of belonging, people came here for that sense of belonging, to survive, to make another opportunity, to make a better life. But guess what? Some of the systems in this system don't allow that to happen naturally, right? And so that's one of the other shows that I'm working on. I don't know when I'm going to drop that one, but again, thank you for listening in. Brett Gordon is here. I'm going to bring him up after I play this public service announcement again, and then we'll come back and talk about his life experience before, during, and after service. This is the Farron Dozier Show on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Shout out West Account. This is Farron from the Farron Dozier Show, 8 p.m. Pacific Time on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind, and MBR Radio. That's right, MBR Radio on all their streaming platforms, including MBR Radio on Roku TV, Sunday nights live, 8 p.m. Pacific Time on KCAA Radio and MBRradio.us. The Farron Dozier Show. For more information, search farrond.com. Tune in to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAAradio.com website on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Brought to you by Sports Collective TV, Sports Collective Radio, and Sports Collective Media. We got the Heme Factor, we got In the Zone, and we got Fourth Down in the 20-second timeout sports segment. All for you right here on the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAAradio.com website with my guest hosts Robert Lamar and Coach Will. Catch us on Sports Collective Media on Instagram and Facebook. And make sure you watch us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAAradio.com website. Music, talk, sports, and so much more. The Farron Dozier Show. Zetovia Salve, made from natural and organic ingredients, good for inflammation, poor circulation, hemorrhoids, yeast infection, lip sores, dry coughs, eye pain, minor cuts and bruises, and ready to purchase at botanicaherbalco.com. 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 All right, so many of you that are familiar, my shows are 99.9% organic. So we are just going to have a conversation as if we were sitting next to you in the room. But I would like to invite to the stage, to the deck here, Brett Gordon. Just want you to know, man, that I appreciate you for the courage and the confidence that you had to come on the show yesterday on Beyond 2D and help us talk through so much of what politics looks like in one hand, but really from the heart of what it looks like. And a lot of people, I lost a friend in this last political, a veteran friend at that, because I wouldn't bash Trump because he felt like that I should, because he didn't like him. And because I had a conversation about the other person that, well, if you talk about her, you talk about him too. And I'm not talking about him. I'm sharing with you a spiritual context of that conversation. But he wanted me to publicly bash Trump, and I chose not to. That's not. I don't even care about either of those parties. But because I did it, then I'm obviously that we're not friends anymore. And so I'm okay with that. It did bother me a little bit because we were doing business together. I was his mentor for his program for his youth, and we let that get in the way of serving families. That just doesn't settle with me. But then again, I respect people's points of views and their perspectives. But I want to say, Brett, thank you for coming on yesterday, man, and having and I know Jessica was kind of nervous about that as well, but I appreciate you for your input and your perspectives on yesterday.
No problem. Life today is not the easiest thing in the world for us to navigate, right? And we got so many different messages coming to us from so many directions. And if you really think about it, most of the time, we don't know what's behind that message. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, people, are always looking for an easier way or a way to make life easier. And oftentimes that is to follow as opposed to lead. Mm-hmm. And to accept what you're told as opposed to think critically about what was said. Right. And I think that goes hand in hand really with, politics, life in general, and life in the military. Definitely. I mean, and this has come up just really recently, right? Where, they're saying there's people out there saying that the military, appealing to the military and probably more of the junior military, saying you don't have to follow orders, or alluding to you not having to follow orders. And we as military members, myself as an officer and NCOs, we know that we are supposed to follow orders, but we also know that if the orders are illegal, I mean, that we can show that they're illegal,
Right.
then we have a duty to question those and try to find out what's behind it, make sure that, you know, what we're thinking is in fact true,
Right.
and then make our decisions. I mean, decisions are based on situations, and situations change.
Mm-hmm.
When you're out in the field and you grew up with the thought that you should not harm women and children, but when you're in the field and they're shooting at you and you can't decide who is them and who is us, you have to make a decision based on the situation, your history, and more so, and we talked about it yesterday, our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that those are some of the critical subjects that affected us before we got in the military. That's where we learned, you know, our most impressionable years in the military. We oftentimes, you know, military training is break you down and build you up, right?
Yep.
And that also includes belief systems. And then after the military, we get out and, you know, we just got through being with all of our brothers in arms, and we knew that, you know, for the most part, everybody was out there to have each other's backs. You get out into the civilian world, and guess what? Sometimes you got to watch out for the knife behind your back. and that's a tough one. And I've seen retired military people get crushed by the civilians, and oftentimes younger civilians that are in the company with them, on the project with them, that are looking for ways to make you look bad so that I look good.
Well, man. And in saying that, let's go back with Brett. Who was Brett growing up as a child in his younger ages?
You know, it's a very interesting question, because it was only recently, and this is where I actually gained some tremendous insight from creating an AI clone of me. And that clone came, I asked the clone, you know, tell me something about myself that I don't know, but I should know.
Wow.
And it came back and it said, you see yourself as in your presence is valued based on what you can fix, what you can stabilize, what you can do, not who you are. And I was like, it was really an eye opener. And then I think back and I'm like, man, you know, this goes all the way back to when I was like 3 years old, and I'm not one who remembers a hell of a lot about, you know, the details of when I was growing up. But I do remember doing things to keep mom from freaking out, to keep mom, you know, from yelling at my brothers and sisters or me. And I found that I could do that. I could anticipate what she would want and get it done so that it smoothed things out, or I would get in the middle and do that. And that's how I built my career, actually, in the military and then afterwards.
Wow.
Was about give me a shit situation.
Yeah.
And let me fix that. But as soon as I get it fixed and stabilized, I'm bored. I want to go to the next problem. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great, you know, and it's great to have that ability. But right now, what I want to do is I want to guide leaders in a way that they can live life easier as a leader, build stronger teams that are more connected, and an understanding of people at a level that we don't normally learn about in leadership training in the military or in corporate America. But it is, you know, do we think like a stabilizer? That's kind of my background. Or are we catalysts, which are like people that come up with ideas? You know, some of those people that every day they've got a new idea, and you're like, dude, you got to follow something before you can actually get it done.
Come on, like that. No, now I appreciate you with what you discovered for 3 years old, right? Because I relate to you. My decision about my mother was 2 years old, but I was an emotional child, so I was disconnected from my mom. You seems like you had to be in service of your mom to fix stuff, right? So the relatedness is that we were able to go back in these childhood ages and look at that. But my question to you is, how did that relationship impact you and your mom as you got older? If you could see that.
Yeah, well, there were times my mom and her mom didn't have a great relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And this is back in the days before cell phones and everything.
Yeah,
you had the big long cord on your phone because that was as far as you could go away from the box.
Right.
But when the phone would ring, I would end up answering it to find out if it was her mom calling or if it was someone else. And if it was her mom calling, I wouldn't give the phone to my mom.
Wow.
And so that kind of went on. And then, I did well in school. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying about your worth is based on your performance.
Right.
When I did well in school, I was recognized. I did well in school. I did very well in school. And I was recognized as such. And it was interesting because when I graduated high school, I did well. I was going into college. I was bio pre-med.
Oh, wow.
And my mom was proud about that. He's going to be a doctor. He's going to, and then after 2.5 years in college, I realized I didn't like blood and didn't like needles. So I was like, man, I shouldn't do this. So I ended up getting a degree in econ and good, strong bio minor. But that was the time when I was looking at the military to pay for medical school. And I chose not to go to medical school, but I still wanted to do something for the country. So I went back home and I told my mom, I'm going to go into the Air Force. And at first she was like disappointed.
Oh, wow.
And, why would you do that? You could have been a doctor. And I was like, I went into the military because I wanted to do something for the country.
Yeah.
And I was told by a professor in college, he was like, why do that? You can go to Wall Street and do well with what you've done here. And I was like,
right,
because I want to do something for the country. And he didn't understand that. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of professors in universities, 80% are more liberal.
Wow.
And that is the bias they have in their teaching as well and their guidance.
Oh, yeah.
But, I did go in the military. And then when she went down to see my graduation from officer training school, then she's like, oh, I was so proud of you and how you look. And then, I'm not the kind of officer that is all about the salute and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
I'm not leading by the rank on my shoulder. I'm leading by the rapport with my team.
Right.
And my mom really liked the fact that, if I went through the gate of the base, they would salute you, right?
Yeah.
And I remember one time when I went in, there's lots of stories I could talk about how I got to where I got to.
Yeah.
But I was in flying training or to be a navigator, and you got a lot of cockiness in some of those guys. And they need to be. Especially if they're going to be in the fighter aircraft, even in the Army and, helicopters and things like that.
Right.
But we went through the gate one time and it was busy. It was, right after lunch, people are coming back onto the base and he's probably, just a airman or maybe a young sergeant, but he didn't get the salute out because he's trying to get people through the gate.
Yeah.
And the guy who was driving backed the car up, jumped out of the car and was like, you got to salute me. He's a freaking second lieutenant.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I cannot, that is not ever been an aspiration that I have. And that's what gives leaders bad names, whether they're NCOs, officers, corporate leaders, that believe that because they have something on their shoulders, a big title behind their name, that gives them value. And that's bullshit. Most of the time when you believe that way, you diminish your value tremendously.
Exactly.
So, that's kind of how I got to that relationship with my mom up to that point. And now my mom and dad are in an assisted care facility, and they're still pretty mobile. My dad just turned 90 yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And my mom's 85, but she has always aspired to be a princess and have people do things for her.
Yeah.
And I took on that role.
Yeah. Pretty good too.
Yeah. And today she's like, oh, I wish you were here. You're the only one that understands me. And I'm also the only one. Well, I'm not the only one, but she listens to me. And sometimes I get, pretty direct, and sometimes I have to drop a few F-bombs, which you don't normally do to your mom, but it's like, Mom, listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Get out of your story that you're telling me and into the present of what's going on.
Beautiful.
And so that's kind of how that relationship has carried on for my whole life.
Now we're not going to leave our Pops. What do you want to say about Pops?
He's laid back. And he is a salesman. He sold carpet for over 50 years.
Wow.
And he loved it because he's like, every day new people come in, I get to talk to them. And I'm not a salesman per se, but he did teach me something. He said, when you're selling something, talk about something else.
Oh.
Don't talk about what you're selling. Get to know the people. Talk about things. Talk about
sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That the business side will come, but people are people.
Wow.
And I won't say he's an emotional person, but he's a people person.
Okay.
And I'm more of a logical person that oftentimes look at people as projects. Not that they're not heartfelt from me, but it's like, how can I help? Like going back to Mom. How can I help? A lot of the people that I've dated were what you might call a project girlfriend.
Yeah, I can relate to you for sure.
And it's great to aspire and to want to help people, but people also need to help themselves.
Yeah.
And at times you have to disassociate because they're willing to take, but they're not willing to give. They're not willing to put forth the effort.
I appreciate you saying that. And as I listen to you say that piece right there, I'm challenged by that conversation. I know that I've learned that sometimes you have to ask permission to speak in people's life. Like sometimes people don't want to be spoken to in their life. Sometimes they just want to be heard. Sometimes they just want to vent, right? And to be able to be responsible for that conversation and how it moves is one thing. But then I hear people say, don't kill my vibe. I ain't got time for drama. Don't call me. It only focus on the people who call you and talk to you and like all this stuff, right? But in that same vein, if a person completes their life, then it's like, oh, check on your strong friends, check on people, people are. So it's like, well, which one do you want? Do you want me to reach out to you when I'm having my troubles to talk to you, or you don't want me to kill your vibe? Which one is it? And I would like to know your perspective or interpretation on that, because it bothers me, right? Because of the work that I've done on myself, knowing that I was in suicide ideation, I was in depression, anxiety, I was having the willingness to die because I thought my life was over because my career ended. And to come out of that, right, on the other side, and then hear people talk about, well, I ain't got time for no drama. That's disheartening for me, because as soon as someone completes their life, then it's a whole nother, oh, check on your strong people because, our friends, you know what they're dealing with. Well, you've been telling me that you don't want to hear. You don't want me to kill your vibe. So is that, am I off in that, or am I missing the piece of the puzzle that connects that?
It's hard because, people are multidimensional, and we have to grow to appreciate it as opposed to reject it or put a barrier around it. When I talk about leadership and when I talk about masculinity, I also talk about feminine energy. Masculine energy and feminine energy are in everybody.
Yes.
And how much of one is in versus the other, there's maybe somewhat of a natural state, but it's also a situational state. And the best way to hold your space as a male or a female is to recognize that you have this balance, that you have the ability to fix, which tends to be a masculine energy, a more, I'll tell you how to do this.
Right.
And the feminine energy, which is more about listening and connecting.
Right.
And when we can bring those together, like shut your mouth and listen with your ears, or maybe it's time that I've heard enough and let's talk about let's talk about that story you continue to live over and over and over again.
Yes.
And what is the driver behind it? How far back does that go?
Yes.
And how far forward do you want it to restrict your life?
And then those stories, I learned for myself that our language could be our biggest trap. We talk about, oh, I got haters. Well, guess what? Your subconscious mind could be your biggest hater because it's telling you what you better not do because of the embarrassment or the shame or the disappointment you experienced from the past. As you said, how I'm struggling. Well, you're struggling, I'm struggling, but no one's saying what the struggle is to get help in the struggle. So we just agree that we're struggling and then we walk away and no one gets any kind of support or help. And so when I looked at that for myself and I hear all these conversations in the world about, what we're talking about as far as relationships and the ability to communicate and listen, a lot of those things are really fractured, but we're bringing the fractured piece to the puzzle, or we're bringing that fractured piece to that conversation, at a great percentage of the time. And it's difficult to admit that to yourself when you want to be right, but I'm right about them. Yeah. But just because you're right doesn't mean you're right.
Exactly. Life is about perception and perspective. And if we don't really understand our own biases, then those perceptions and perspectives, they build on each other, and it always will. But one of the toughest things to do is to question our perspective, our perception, and our belief system. We talked about this yesterday, that it's a whole lot easier to point the finger out and say it's the economy, it's the president, it's my next door neighbor, it's my mom. My mom has been dead. In some cases, people's moms have been dead for years and years and years, and yet they point to them and say they're the ones that are impacting me. No, it is you that is impacting you, and it's your interpretation of what they said and your memory of what they said.
And the perception of that conversation and perspective.
Exactly. Yeah. And, in the military, we have those same types of challenges that come up, especially when you're talking about PTSD and things along those lines.
Right.
And there's an exercise that I've been through a few times and kind of learned how to do. It was something called the Dickens process. Tony Robbins uses it to take you back to those traumas in the past. And look at it. I know there's, in today's world, younger people may not know about cassette tapes and things like that. But if you took that, that old cassette tape or the recording of that event in your life, which was very traumatic. And an event, I say part of my program is an event is just an event.
Mm-hmm.
How you interpret and put a meaning to that event is up to you.
Exactly.
So pain sometimes is unavoidable.
Mm-hmm.
Suffering is.
Mm-hmm.
So in this exercise, you kind of go back to those, and you try to go back all the way to the first seriously traumatic event in your life, and pick that tape up and realize the meaning that you have on it. Now change that meaning. So it wasn't I was abused and it's changed me for my entire life and it's caused all these problems that I have, but it is I was abused and now I can use that to help others to avoid or to overcome.
Yes.
And when you put that cassette back into that space that you pulled it out of, it's like a domino.
Right.
All these other events that you had this meaning that was based on that, all of a sudden changes. And now your past and your present and then your future don't have to be based on that past.
Yes.
And if you put an enlightening spirit on that past, you put a positive spin on what happened, what you learned from it, what you've gained, how you survive life because of that, and how you've helped others because of that. All of a sudden, your self-worth, your perceptions, your
exactly
changed, and you didn't even have to go through all the other ones,
right?
Because that domino fell, and now it's it has a different meaning. So, yeah.
And so when you language it that for yourself, I look at it now for me as principles. I understand that principles are to be used by, they're not conceptual. So if you believe that you can find a principle outside of your thought process in life that you can use to unravel that tape or find where the tape is that you need to find, then you got to be willing to look at something outside of yourself, right? And so I want to ask you, you mentioned Tony Robbins, right? What led you to that kind of personal development? What was going on with you in life that you was like, you know what, I need something outside of my perception, my own interpretation, that you're like, you know what, I got to go find something?
It was the point when I left active duty military. I mean, literally in 1992, when I left active duty, I was trying to find a job first in Hawaii, because that's where I got out of the Air Force. Duty. And I realized, the way they do business in Hawaii is not kind of the way that I learned to do business. It's a bit more laid back, and it's definitely about who you know, not necessarily what you know. So I came back, and it was actually temporarily, back living with my parents. I was paying them rent, but it was a place to be. And I was in the basement, and I started thinking about, what's going on. And back in the day, there were all these infomercials. Now there's not as many as there are, were then. And Tony Robbins was one of them. So I bought his program and I started going through it. And I was like, wow, there are so many things that I may need to unlearn. And then there are many things that I need to learn about me. And it takes work to do that. It takes honesty to yourself to do that. And it takes being responsible for yourself to do that. And that was the beginning, listening to tapes and stuff. And I did that for a number of years. I went into corporate leadership and things along those lines. And I was working for Maersk, one of the largest shipping companies in the world, in Southern California, actually out of Southgate, California.
Oh, wow.
And they decided that they were going to move my position from there to New Jersey. And I was like, I don't want to move to New Jersey, but my position. And then I was thinking about it, and I said, well, I just moved my parents from Chicago to Las Vegas, which is where I had my house. I actually had an apartment in California. And I was like, I did that because I spent so many years away from my parents, from the time I went to college, basically, until the time, until that time.
Right. 20
years or more being, outside of the area of my parents.
Wow.
And it was like, if I moved to New Jersey, am I moving there for the right reasons? Yes, the money is there. Yes, the position is there. But is that going to fulfill me?
Right there.
And I was like, no. And what really drew my attention to that is I went to a live Tony Robbins event for the first time.
Oh, I bet that was exciting.
So if you listen to Tony Robbins tapes and things, he can get animated, but it's pretty much, kind of classroom-esque.
Yeah.
Or through stories. But you get to an event and you go into the event and everybody's jumping up and down and, yelling and hugging each other and stuff. And I went in there, here I was, basically this was 2006. So,
wow.
So 20 years of being in the military and then also reservist and in corporate America.
Yeah.
And I would say that at that time I was kind of the stick up the ass, follow the rule leader.
Oh yeah.
And no fraternization, all that stuff. Even in UPS, when I worked there, they're like, don't go fishing off the UPS pier, meaning don't go getting a girlfriend that works here. So I walk in there and I'm like, man, I love Tony, but this is really outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, maybe I'm not even going to stay here for the whole day. And I said, okay, but just chill and kind of be a part of it, and then open up and kind of do what they're saying.
Yeah.
And they come, first it starts off with, shake hands and say hi to the person next to you. And then maybe an hour later, 2 hours later, it's like, go around and give 5 hugs to people around you. and like I said, in the military, public displays of affection. No. Corporate leader. No. Don't even put your hand on their shoulder, because it could be interpreted as some sort of a confrontation.
Wow.
And here we are hugging people that we have no idea who they are. And I started out with that kind of guy hug where you tap on the back and okay, we're cool. and he's like, don't just do the guy hug thing of tap on the back and then go on. Give a genuine hug. And that's when I learned about just giving a from your heart bear hug to people.
Yeah.
And to look at their face after you do that.
Yeah.
And especially if they're different from you, or they have an expectation. I remember I was facilitating a Tony Robbins event, and a group of gay guys were in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they all sat together and things like that. And then we had one of those breaks, and it's like, go give everybody a hug.
Yeah.
And I went up to one of them and I gave him just a genuine bear hug. And he looked at me and he's like, I didn't expect that from you.
Wow.
And I'm like, why?
Wow.
Well, because you're not like us. And I'm like,
wow.
How?
Wow.
You're a human. I'm a human.
Wow.
Just because I gave you a hug like that doesn't mean I want to date you. It means that I care about you as a person.
As a person. First.
And when you see those changes, to me, leadership is priceless when you see in the eyes of somebody that you've had been able to make them see a significant change in their perspective, in themselves, in their capabilities.
Yes.
And that to me is why I want to teach leaders how to be more of that kind of a leader, by understanding your people more and knowing how to better motivate them and watching them grow beyond where they thought they could be.
Yeah.
So that was how it kind of
we are in the same vein, right? And as far as this happens, because again, with my own work that I had to do for myself, right, in the midst of that darkness, at 40 years old, was challenged the first 40 years of my life. And, you know, I find out that my mom prayed to God for him to give me something because I was so lost. And I found this personal development education. And I've been at it for 15 years, and it has definitely transformed my life, right? That I'm not the same person I was at 40. I'm not the same person that I was I'm 55, not at 50. Like, I've grown in these increments because I've been willing to do the work and look at those areas as you pointed to, but at myself first. A lot of times we want to try to fix people, fix other people, you know, outside of us, but we also have to be willing to look at ourselves. And the biggest thing that I saw for myself was the interpersonal relationship. We look at interpersonal relationships all the time between us and people and them and them, but have I ever looked at myself about myself? And that was, it wasn't hard for me because I was so low in life that I'm like, there's got to be something better than where I'm at, right? I myself told myself that, like, you got to be something better than this. And so getting into that education and applying those principles to my life, like, you can't help but get a different perspective of life, of yourself, right? And so I want to touch just a little bit back at the past, you know, how you said that even the way that you cared for your mom as a child, you've seen that in your military career, right? I can tell you that at 8 years old, I was what society called a latchkey kid in 1978, and I wrote an inspirational read about this. But that latchkey kid of 1978, when I made a decision about my mother that she abandoned me or I can't trust her, I didn't know that she was going to represent all women as I grew up from that decision that I made about my mom. But the biggest part was the decision I made about that key, that I had to be responsible and I can't lose this key, because if I lose the key, I'm going to get a whooping. I can't get in the house, right? So there's a whole domino effect, as you said, if I lose this key.
Yeah.
So that key had me become responsible, which is a good quality, but it was also the driving force of even the job I took in the military as a supply sergeant, proving to myself that I was responsible, that I had a property book of $6 million, and I was responsible for a paperclip to a tank, and the physical security of all the vaults and the weapons. I had keys. I had the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
And I was good at my job, but it also was me silently proving to myself that I'm a responsible. So I was never committed to things in life, but I was definitely a responsible person. And when I got the difference between being committed and being responsible, I had taken on a lot of stuff in life, being responsible, but I didn't really care about doing it or even being there or being a part of it. But that was in my late 40s. So you're talking about 8 years old decision, and maybe 41 years at that time when I realized that I'm responsible, but I'm not committed.
Right.
And that impacted my marriage. It impacted the things that I was up to in life, that I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this. I have to relook at this situation because I think I'm doing this out of a survival state.
Yeah.
So when you said that about your mom and the child impact of that as an adult, I'm fascinated because sometimes we think we're the only ones that discover those things about ourselves. What do you want to say about that part of that? Because I became analytical, and that helped in my military career because that's how we had to keep our soldiers safe. I was part of the crew that went out and did the recon and made sure that the training site was in and it was safe and it was going to be cool. Where we're going to set up like the risk assessment and like so. I'm always you're in there talking about fixing it. I'm in the pre-conversation of let me make sure that this is going to be where we need to do our work, where we can get the best training, where it's going to be the terrain, but also the safety features. Are there foxholes, rattlesnake holes? Like what's going on? That's my version of your fixing was me being analytical and analyzing everything. And some people don't like a person who analyzes everything.
Well, that's exactly me too. I'm very analytical, and like I said, project girlfriends or project relationships are looking at people to see what I can do to help, or what is really going on with them. That analytical side, and I didn't know that you were a supply uh, person, but I was a logistics readiness officer.
Oh, so
and I've been in logistics my whole life, and I love logistics because I can see details that others don't, and I can anticipate in project management. I anticipate 9-10 steps out when other people see 1, 2, 3 steps out. And
oh my goodness.
So, and that's what happens in life. But there are a lot of people. There are people like us, and there's a lot more people that aren't like us.
Right. And that's what I want to point out. Can use that because those skills that we had developed even from our childhood survival skills. We need those skills, but at some point as an adult, as life transition, those skills don't work anymore. And the ability to say, okay, I know this is not working, but I don't know how to figure out a new way to apply this to my life, or maybe that childhood decision is affecting my relationships, and I don't know. I can see the damage, but I don't know who else I could be except not be vulnerable.
Yeah, and when you're in that analytical, when your natural energy is being analytical, you oftentimes have a bit of a perfectionist lean or bias, and I definitely did and still do. I mean, I'm not gonna say that I don't, but I was a first lieutenant in the Air Force, and I was given my first section to be responsible for, and I had to start to realize that not everybody sees the level of detail I do. Not everybody is looking at it from that closely to be perfect. And I had to start to recognize that I'm going to kill myself if I don't kill others, not figuratively, by not recognizing that sometimes good is good enough. Yes, we can set stretch goals and try to lead by example and get people to maybe see where it's valuable to look more detail. But at the same time, they may feel the world a whole lot differently. I would say until probably the last 10 years since I've been with my girlfriend now, I've grown to appreciate that I can feel the world as well as see the world. And that balance is growing. There's still tremendous, I can walk and see, there's that, I don't know where that pea on the ground came from, but I can see that pea, that piece of rock, that whatever.
Right.
That other people walk by and they're like, I don't see anything. I'm like, right there, it's simple, it's obvious. No, it's not to others, because they appreciate the world in a totally different way than I do. And the key is to complement each other. Not like tell everybody, oh, you're doing great, but complementing the energies that we are naturally have, what I call our natural genius.
I gotta have this conversation with you because this is a military network. There are a lot of people who are serving. I mean, we stream all across the country. It's internet, it's TikTok, it's Instagram. I gotta say this with you, and I want your input. I remember we got a brand new lieutenant, and I was in transportation. I was actually during this time I was a fuel handler truck driver, and so we were out at Fort Irwin training. And he was brand new. He came in and he had all of his board and the book knowledge and all this stuff. And we're going to do it like this and we're going to do it like this. And the NCOs were like, that ain't going to work. But he's like, no, we're going to do it like this. And we got to do it like this. And we're going to do it over here. So we looked at each other and we was like, okay, we gonna do it like you want to do it, sir. This is how you want us to do this. So what was crazy was we were at Fort Irwin and it had rained, right?
Oh,
so mud. So we were in 5,000 gallon tankers. We were in deuce and a halves, 5 tons, supply trucks, all of that, right? And we're in the convoy, and he's like, "No, we're gonna go this way." And we're like, "Sir, do you see that there's no tracks going that way? That means that since it rained, we're gonna be stuck."
Yeah.
Right? So he's like, no, we don't want to get it because we're gonna be attacked, right? So we're practicing to be attacked and stuff. And so we're like, all right, go that way. Man, we went that way. As soon as we hit that open spot area, and now we're stuck.
Yep.
And we had to get the 88 to come and pull us out. It messed up the whole training day. And he came back that night and he was so humble. He was like, "You know what, man? I know that I'm a second lieutenant and I'm here at your platoon leader, and I'm going to actually listen to you." He's like, "I'm actually going to listen to you because I see that you actually are doing the work, and that what we do on the board and in class, it looks good, but it doesn't always translate to when you're in action on the court." And we walked away with that. I walked away with that experience with a new love and care for him, because we were so traumatized by the lieutenant being in charge and forcing us to do a way that we know that wasn't going to work. And then we're here to help you win. Like, we're here for you,
right.
But the stuff that you're doing, we're not. It's like a coach giving a play to execute on the court. It may look good on the clipboard, but it may not, because we've been doing this for years. And so for you being an officer and your experience, can you please speak to that for our brothers and sisters at arms on my translation to you of what that looks like? Because somebody might be still hurt, right? Hurt from an officer, and their perspective or perception of an officer could be broken because of a person that has the book knowledge but didn't have the heart to say, "You know what, you guys were correct and I was wrong, or I wasn't right and you were right." Can you please speak to that part?
Yeah, interesting conversation. So I told you about that one officer that, I needed the salute and all that kind of stuff when I was in nav training. Well, after nav training, I did not ever want to fly, but quotas, right? So I got recruited. They only had quotas for flyers or engineers, and I didn't want to be an engineer and I didn't want to fly, but I thought the lesser of the two evils was to try to fly. So I didn't have the conviction like you were talking about to want to fly. And finally figured out how to get out of it without getting kicked out of the Air Force, and they put me into logistics, which at first I was like, motor pool? Oh, it's gonna suck. I'm not gonna like this. And they put me into Dover Air Force Base with the big C-5 aircraft that you could drive from, in one end out the other.
Yeah.
And I was put in as a Air Terminal Operations Center duty officer. So, for overseeing the whole flight line operations from the logistics perspective.
Wow.
And I learned almost immediately that I did not know what the hell they were doing. My team in front of me that were the NCOs that were guiding the things that were going on.
Right.
And my approach was, can I come down and sit next to you and just kind of listen in, watch what you're doing, learn what you're doing, because I don't know this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I built my rapport with the team. Now, are there times that I questioned why they were doing certain things and thought it could have been done a different way? And maybe there were times that I kind of pushed in that direction, and they're like, "Up to you, sir." and I had great commanders that were. They said, "Don't come to me with a question. Come to me with the situation and what you did, or if it's significant enough, what you're thinking about doing, but do not come to me and ask me to give you what to do."
Oh, wow.
And I was lucky to have those kind of commanders right off that are open to that.
Right.
And there was one time that I really, really, shouted at my colonel, 06, because we were basically going to bump cargo from a plane in order to get space available passengers on a plane to go to Germany. And I'm like, what? That's not our mission. Our mission is to move the cargo, and the passengers are a byproduct of that. Especially space available, because that
right. Yeah. Oh yeah, space. Yeah. Exactly.
That is not a right. That is, an opportunity.
Opportunity. Yeah. Opportunity.
And after I did that, and it happened to be in the terminal center, my commander called me in the next day and he said, Lieutenant Gordon, I appreciate your conviction to the mission. But first of all, you never speak to your superior like that in front of the people.
Oh, yeah.
And secondly, here we have 450 people in the backlog, many of them sleeping in the terminal or around.
Wow.
And we're trying to do what we can to break that backlog. People need to get back to their family. They're on vacation. They're with their family. They need to get back to the mission. And I learned a lesson. And we should always take that opportunity to learn a lesson. And if you have great leaders, they will allow you to make mistakes. Yeah. And then they will guide you on how not to do that again.
Yeah, correct that.
And I had a situation a little bit different when I was in charge of the passenger terminal. Lo and behold, now those are my responsibility, all those people. And
let them get on. Let them get on. Let them get on.
and I had two people in my unit that were married, but he had been deployed for a while, and she was back here on home station. Mm-hmm. And she was being fed stories about what he might be doing overseas.
Oh, God, no.
And then she's like, well, if he's doing that, then I'm going to do this.
Oh, no.
And I don't think that he was really doing that, but she really did that.
Wow.
And they were in the process of getting a divorce, and it was a tense situation. I had to have them on different shifts and things like that. But there were times she would bring her next boyfriend around while he was there. And
oh, no.
Tough situation. And he took to drinking.
Oh, no.
And he eventually got busted, come through a gate DUI.
Oh, my gosh.
And he was a really, really good worker. I mean, reliable, somebody who I knew was going to do the right things.
Wow.
And, I'm the OIC, and I had to call him into my office, and I closed the door. And I said, look, the difference between you and me is you got caught. Straight up. I was like, you got caught. I'm not going to say I haven't driven drunk.
Right. Right.
And this is back in the early 80s before it really got bad, or more focused. But I said, we're going to have to do certain things because of you getting busted DUI. You're going to have to go to the program. Mm-hmm. You're going to get looked at more closely. Mm-hmm. And you need to do a great job, continue doing a great job. So he did. And then it came time to do the, annual reports. And I marked him accordingly for his performance on duty, but I marked him down significantly for military bearing and judgment.
Yeah.
But overall, the score was very high, and it went across my commander's desk, and he called me up. He's like, Lieutenant Gordon, you gave Sergeant so-and-so this score for his OPR or his APR, Airman Performance Report.
Yeah.
And I said, sir, I'm not going to kill a person's career because of a mistake. I marked him down on judgment and bearing, but his performance here at work is superior. And my commander's like, all right, I can accept that. And I think that as leaders, that's what we're here to do. We're not here to crush people because of a mistake.
Right.
And those mistakes can be costly. In fact, when I left there, unfortunately, there was a mistake out on the flight line that cost one of my young troops who just came in before I left. She got run over by the stair truck.
No. What?
And yeah, and I feel for the guy who did it, because he was just the nicest guy, but they got rushed. And anyhow, I don't know the very specifics. I always focused very much on safety first, and be aware, and situational awareness and all that kind of stuff. Whether we're in a official position of leadership or whether we're in a position where we have influence, which is everywhere, it's our responsibility to try and guide and do what we can to help, and to recognize that we can do that if we choose to do that. And it may mean that you may sometimes go against the group who's like, why the fuck would we do that?
Right, exactly.
It's like, because that's the right thing to do. Yeah, it's easier to do it your way, but it's better to do it the right way.
Yeah. No.
And I always say even today, the main reason that we're in a leadership position is to keep the shit off our people's back so they can do what they do best.
And it's beautiful how you said that we're not here to crush a person for making a mistake, right? I'm going to play a commercial and come back, but I want to talk about what that transition looks like from a child to a parent and a parent to a child, right? Because a lot of times as parents, when the child messes up, it's like, that's the child, that's who you are, you're the mess up. When this child is not the mess up, they make a mistake, they do that. So I want to talk about that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How our conversation shifts into life as parents, and because we were all someone's child, right? And not everybody's a father or mother, but we've all been someone's child. And maybe that conversation, as we wrap up the show, we could plant that seed in families to look at that as Thanksgiving comes about, and we want to be loving with our family. However, I was telling my friend today, in English, we use the word love. I love my car. I love my wife. I love my friends. We say, I love my dog. I love this. I love that. But then that word love is used for so much stuff that it kind of gets watered down when you have in other languages like storge love, which is family love. And so when I say I storge you, you're talking about your family. And that's a different kind of love than just saying I love you. So I want to touch on that as we wrap up the episode, because like I said, it is Thanksgiving, and I want to plant a seed of what that looks like, because sometimes as family members, we hold that against each other. The child holds that against the parent of how you disciplined me or you treated me because I messed up, and all that other stuff that comes with why I don't even want to spend time with you during the holidays, right? And so maybe that conversation for those who watch this or watching can have a heart, and maybe like, let me look at what that looks like in my own life like that. So you up for that conversation?
Sure. Yeah, I got about 15 minutes left.
Good. So then that's what we got. We'll take it.
Right.
So this is the Farron Dozier Show right here on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Brett Gordon is here. We're just talking about life before, during, and after service, but more about the human aspect of our careers, right? It's not just what we did, but the experience of it. And a lot of times we discount the human experience because of the past hurts and the past traumas and the belief systems that we grew up in that don't fit us in our teenage years or in our 30s or in our 40s or even 50s. So stay tuned for this, and then we'll be right back on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Shout us out, what's the count?
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes, in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org.
Muchos de nosotros nos vemos afectados por la enfermedad de células falciformes a diario y un número creciente simplemente no nos damos cuenta. Los impactos de esta enfermedad afectan a todas las personas y en especialmente a las personas de color y con antecedentes diversos. Estar en servicio conmigo y con los demás a medida que creamos una mayor conciencia sobre cómo identificar y dirigir el tratamiento de los rasgos de células falciformes y ayudar a las familias a saber cómo superar el trastorno de células falciformes. WDCONS.
My name is Ann Halley. I am the CEO and founder of the Rhabdomyolysis Foundation. I founded the organization in 2022 in an effort to support survivors and fund medical-related research. If you're interested in getting involved with our organization, you can visit our website at therhabdofoundation.org. You can sign up as a volunteer, or you can support our organization by donating directly on our website. And all proceeds will go to support survivors and medical research.
All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show. I just want to say that sickle cell trait conversation is very, very important. It is my personal experience. It is part of why my military career came to an end, along with the rhabdomyolysis conversation. So I have sickle cell trait, and I experienced exertional sickling with rhabdomyolysis in my 17th year of my career. Took the military, 4 years to figure out what happened, and then another 3 years for me to fight to try to stay in. But I was found not fit for service because my body started to break down, and so dealing with arthritis and being on medication, I was found non-deployable and then not fit for service. And so if you want more information about that, wdconsct.org. It is in sickle cell trait is an inherited gene. That's my campaign here in the back. But also the rhabdomyolysis. Anybody can experience rhabdo. Rhabdo is a skeletal muscular disorder. We've seen in the last year that children have experienced rhabdo because of the high fevers. So it's not just inherited genes that can trigger rhabdo. You could have a muscular disorder or a muscle disease that could cause it. You could be on a cholesterol medication and exercising, and that could trigger your rhabdomyolysis. You could be, I had a guest not too long ago that fell and hurt her leg and her knee and her arm, and the crushing of that could cause rhabdo. So there's a lot of things. And then she also had an inherited gene. So when she fell and hurt herself, that triggered that gene, and now she's experienced rhabdomyolysis 50 plus times, I believe she said. So yes, sickle cell trait is African Americans. We are number one because it combats malaria. So if you know about sickle cell trait and you say, oh, that's a black gene, well, that is partially true. It isn't. We are number one because my ancestors lived in the area where malaria is present. So that's how they survived malaria. So, but guess what? You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, Asian, Saudi Arabia. Hispanics are number two in sickle cell trait. So African Americans were number one, but the Latin community is number two. And there are other red blood cell conditions out there like thalassemia trait, C trait, D trait, OA-RAB, G6PD. There are other red blood cell conditions out there that could cause complications just by being a carrier, right? So with the exercise-induced exercise exertion with my sickle cell trait, my red blood cells mutated. I lost oxygen in my body, which triggered the rhabdomyolysis, which triggered skeletal muscular damage, joint damage, renal failure, and some other secondary health complications that I actually live with. You can't see it because it's inside. So I'm fine on the outside, but especially wintertime is one of my roughest seasons because of the pains and the weather change. And so, but it reminds me why I'm alive, but it also reminds me that I have a voice, and that became my what's next. So for my brothers and sisters that are listening, that uniform is what you get to do. It's not who you are as a person, right? So don't lose sight of the things that you care about in the world, your family, your friends. Those are just as important as that camouflage and that identity that we carry in that uniform. When my rank was in uniform was taken away, my life was over, because that's what I made it mean. And sometimes, as we said on the show today, we give meaning to life that's in a disempowering context or a hurt, broken experience, because I was disappointed in myself for sprinting that day. I didn't have to sprint. I was embarrassed because my career, and I was ashamed because of my career came to an end on the way it came to. So there was a lot of things that I was carrying, right? So we're going to come back with Brett and wrap up this segment in the next 9 minutes. We're going to talk about, we've talked about our military experience and the impacts of that, but we're people first, right? We are people first. I was a person before I joined, before I took that label on as a soldier. And I want to talk about that because as it's the holiday season here, we love our families. I love my mom and dad, but they got on my nerve. And I had to figure out why they got on my nerve. All right, Brett.
All right. Well, there's a lot that can be said, and not enough time in this show to probably say it all by any means.
Yeah.
But when one thing that adults oftentimes, and parents in particular, don't understand is that although we believe, just like you were talking about, from the outside you look fine, but on the inside you got these things going on, sickle cell and all these things. That same thing goes on as a parent, where parents think that they can present themselves good on the outside, but on the inside they're arguing with each other. They're in battle. Their energy is negative because of the relationship, but they think they're putting on a face that the kids will benefit from. When in fact the kids feel energy even more than adults.
Yes.
So if you're having challenges with your relationship, your kids are going to be having challenges with the environment. And kids are very ingenious. And oftentimes your trouble child is the one who recognizes that if I get in trouble, mom and dad come together. And that's what I want, is mom and dad to be together. So I'll take the pain to keep them together.
Wow.
And that is something that we as adults, and it happens in the military too, or in any organization, but in the family, and especially in those impressionable years, kids figure that out. And then they become your problem child.
Wow. Brett.
Because they feel your challenges. Wow. So sometimes your problem children are the ones that love you greatly.
Wow.
They're not trying to create trouble to create trouble. They're trying to create trouble so you stay together.
Wow.
And they learn from that. And in playing that role in adulthood too, or victimhood, it's really, really something that is not taught. We don't have good classes for parents.
No.
And usually it's, the books. And like you were talking about earlier, what's in the book and what's in reality are two different things. And I used to say in the military, I actually learned this from my bosses that I told you were so good.
Yeah.
policies and procedures are a great place to deviate from. You need that structure, you need that guidance, but then consider the situation. And sometimes the right choice is not to follow the rule.
Ooh wee. If I had a hat on, I would take it off. Wow.
So, you know, these lessons are not lessons that your professors, your teachers learn, because most of the time, and I say this with some level of commitment and some humor, but you know, those who can do, those who can't teach. What theoretically is good doesn't always translate to reality. I was on the implementation side of operations, implementing systems, those types of things. Usually I came into a company after the strategic guys were there that said, theoretically, you should be able to save this much money by doing this. And I used to come in and say, the very first thing that we have to do is reset expectations.
Right. Especially the unspoken ones too.
Well, exactly, because now we're going to bring people into it. And when you bring people into it, those theories are a great place to start.
Right.
But you're going to deviate from.
Wow.
And that goes with life and kids.
Before you go.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins is one of the principles that you live your life. That's one that you. So I had to get a new ideology, philosophy, and theology, right? So I got a new ideology. Was cognitive behavior was that for me, because I had to challenge my ideas and my thoughts. Landmark education became my new philosophy because they teach the experience of the being of human beings. So that was perfect. My theology is biblical principles. I'm not religious. I don't believe I used to be, but I saw that it's not about religion. It's about the relationship with God and the Trinity for me. Real quick before you go, what do you categorize your life? I put mine in 3 phases. So that way, if I'm off in the dark spot, I have 3 ways that I could get back to be centered, right? I have my ideology I could go to, I can have my philosophy or the theology. And I use those 3 pillars to find my way back to being who Farron is today. Is Tony Robbins one of your curriculums, and what else do you use for yourself?
Well, you know, I learned all throughout life, right? You know, we've been talking about that, and Tony Robbins is one eyes to a different perspective, and through that, neuro-linguistic programming. And you had mentioned before language having a big deal, that transformational language, changing the words you use to describe a situation changes your perception of that situation. So choose your words wisely and don't allow your mind just to spit crap out. Crap out comes back to you as double the crap in.
Right.
So transformational language is a critical thing. I rarely, unless, you know, in certain times you need to in your face get some emotional response. I don't talk about problems. I talk about roadblocks. I talk about challenges. I talk about things that are overcomable as opposed to a problem, which tends to be a blockade.
Exactly.
And then I also have, I've had an opportunity to travel with some amazing mentors. One is around the model that I use when I'm helping leaders to understand themselves and understand their team. And that's another session that we could go into at some other time. But I've been to India and Nepal and Tibet and had an opportunity to engage with more on a tangential perspective, not like really living in it, but I have lived in Japan and I have lived in Korea and I lived in the culture. I appreciate those cultures because they see the world differently. They have different guidance. When I was in college, I studied Far Eastern religion because to me, that connected to me more than Western religion. It was about, if you if you intentionally fuck up, it's going to come back at you, and you cannot say the prayers or the beads and holy,
right,
Hail Mary or whatever.
Right.
That doesn't help.
Yeah.
You have to change inside.
Yes.
Not be given forgiveness from the outside.
Yes.
And that happens even in issues where we say, forgive that person. Well, you can acknowledge that they did what they did, but internally you have to change your perception of what happened in order to be able to grow, as opposed to go into your shell.
Be free from that story and that meaning.
Exactly. So
I get that.
Those are the common principles, and I believe in people.
Okay.
And I always say that I believe in people, as hard as it is, and as many times as I've gotten in trouble because I want to believe that the people are honest and truthful about why or what they're doing.
Yes.
And trust but verify, I guess, is a good way to address that.
Yeah.
But I have been bitten numerous times by believing that the handshake to me is more important than my signature on a piece of paper.
Wow. See, we old school.
Yeah. And unfortunately that doesn't hold up in court well.
Yeah, no.
And I'm having to deal with that because of some situations.
Yeah.
But I still want to say that my handshake is more important than my signature.
I'm gonna let you go because I know you got to get out. I want to say this into with what I heard you say for me. At the end of the day, a lot of things that we deal with people, our worries, our concerns, is really from love. Like, we truly care about one another, and sometimes it comes across as arrogant or an attitude or frustration or whatever that is. But if you really peel those layers off from that person, or why they're behaving the way that they're behaving, because we don't want to see you suffer. We actually don't want to see you. We want to see you grow and flourish and have a life. But sometimes it comes across in our perception of that person is, oh, you're trying to tell me what to do, or you don't care, you didn't answer me. But what is that person dealing with that may not, they don't usually have the words to say, because I love you, that's why I'm acting like this. Because I care about you.
For sure. And that's what I talk about leadership today. It's about giving you more tools in your toolbox. Because if you only have one tool in your toolbox, you just try to use that harder. You just try to pound that screw in harder with the hammer rather than getting the screwdriver.
We could talk all day. We could, because I look at it like I can use a butter knife to screw in a flat tip screw, or I could use a flat tip screwdriver that's made for that screw.
Right.
Now I can use a butter knife, but then there's actually a tool that's made for that screw perfectly.
Exactly.
Man.
Exactly.
Thank you for your time. You're more than welcome. We're gonna definitely have to have some more conversations like this. So I thank you for hanging out today, for your time. Any last words for our veteran brothers and sisters?
Yeah, just really remember that, we learned a lot being in the military, and we perceived a lot of lessons that maybe isn't necessarily the lesson that we really learned or should or can learn. So take that opportunity to look back and recognize that we have control over our perceptions of the events, and events are just events. So look for the positives that are in there. Look for how we can help others by what we learned from those, and that will change our lives forever.
Brett, thank you. I look forward to having way more conversations in 90 minutes. So thank you for tonight.
Sounds good.
I appreciate you so much.
Take care, man.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye. All right, this is the Farron Dozier Show on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. That was Brett Gordon. I'm going to end it with my conversation to you, with my brothers and sisters. Again, the biggest thing that I've learned from all the different educations that I've taken, from the spiritual context to what it is to be a human being, to the grief classes, to the cognitive behavior that I recommend that the VA offers, from Caldwell's Gold Tenders and leadership by inclusion, the LBI. At the end of the day, we all want to belong somewhere. And this camouflage uniform that you're wearing, it could be giving you a sense of belonging, but it also could be disconnecting you from who you really are as a person. So don't lose sight of what you care about. That uniform, that job is what you get to do. It's not who you get to be only. So the activities of life is that uniform and the work that you're doing, but our experience of life is just as important. We cannot live avoiding shame, disappointment, or embarrassment. You can't live avoiding that. It's going to happen. But our conversation is that we can teach you not what to think, but teach you how to think. And as Brett said, there are tools, there are principles, right? That hammer in a toolbox is powerful. We can look at that hammer that's sitting in your toolbox. We know that hammer is powerful. But we don't experience that power of that hammer until we pick it up and it's used by us. And that's what the principle is. That's what the tools are that we're talking from. We're not talking about them because we put our life in these conversations. So to talk from this principle is me picking up that hammer and letting that hammer be used by me with that force. And if that hammer is used by you in a fashion that gives you your strength and your power back, your life will ultimately alter. But yeah, the hammer is powerful by itself, by design, but it has to be used. So I looked at cognitive behavior and I used it. I'm used by cognitive behavior. I'm used by landmark education because of what it is to be a human being, to be, not do human being, but be human being. And ultimately, I filter all of those curriculums through the Word of God, through the biblical context, the biblical principles, and then I see if those ways of being used by in those conversations are ways to be used by the Word. And guess what? I found a lot of the conversations that I've been used by from those educations came from there. They're biblical principles. They're principles. Where did they get these principles from? A lot of those are biblical principles. We don't do patience, we be patience. You don't just do love, we be love. You don't just do confidence, we be confidence. We be courage. We be kindness. We don't do kindness. You be kindness. Those are ways of being, and that's all the Word of God talks about. Jesus Christ is an example for us that he shows us not just his great miracles, but his behavior, his character, how he treated people. Those are the ways of repenting, turning from the old ways of thoughts, renewing your heart, renewing your mind. That's your subconscious mind. That's it. That's the work. But it takes courage. It takes a way of being to be willing to look in your life and look at the past experiences, the emotional things. For myself, I had to do that. I was willing to. Or I wouldn't be in front of you right now today if I wasn't willing to. But the biggest part of this conversation tonight is not just the willingness to be it and do it, but the experience. And sometimes you might have to feel that body sensation of the pain of that 2-year-old. You might have to feel the hurt body sensation of the abandonment that you felt, that you think that your mom or dad did to you. You might have to experience that pain and realize that when you connect the thought and the story and the body sensation and the education that you use to apply that, those 4 pieces, when that body sensation for me, when I'm in my classes and I feel the anxiety of that conversation because I put myself in the presence of what it was to be 8 years old and to feel like that I was abandoned, but then to use the curriculums and to challenge the stories and to check my being and my doing, I was never abandoned. My mom never abandoned me. Never. My perception, my perception of time. Sometimes children, their perception of time is not there. So 90 minutes felt like 20 hours. My dad didn't love me because he left on Christmas. That wasn't even the case. I was mad at him and it was somebody in the room that said he was gone. These are the conversations. We talk about these tools and principles that if you apply them to your life, you're able to understand yourself better. I don't even want to say it like that. I have to be responsible. It's not about understanding yourself better. It's about experiencing life in another perspective, in another perception, in another interpretation. And when you put your life in another perspective or another interpretation or another perception of that story, then you might realize that there was some missing pieces of that story that you didn't have. And the meaning that you gave it was incorrect. And yes, you might have to go back and correct that from 40 years ago. I'm correcting stuff from 41 years ago. I'm correcting stuff from 53 years ago. The mind of a child. So I have to forgive myself for making those decisions as a child because I had no idea what was going on. My perception, my memory patterns, my action patterns. Enjoy the holidays. I thank you for tuning and listening in today. I appreciate you all for checking us out. At Farron Dozier for more information, farrond.com if you want to check out what I'm up to in the community. Of course, the sickle cell trait is WDC on SCT.org. I got link trees if you want to follow along. It's all going to lead you to the stuff that I'm up to. The Life of a, that's one of my favorite talks that I'm up to today is the Life of a, all the childhood experiences that I've been delivered from and working through my life experiences as an adult at 55. So a lot of those things are important. Sports Collective on Sundays at 8 p.m. LBI Solutions, you can go there. That's for our veterans and for our children and parents conversation with Caldwell Williams. I'm a part of that conversation. I'm his trainer. So again, I don't just talk about these conversations. I live from them, from the biblical principles to the cognitive behavior to Caldwell's education. I practice being those. If you be those and do those, and you will produce the results that you want for yourself and for your life as a space of peace, joy, love, affinity for people. Those are the fruit of the Spirit. You become kindness. You become loving. You become caring. But you got to be willing to do the work. And a lot of us aren't willing. Search your heart for that willingness. This is the Farron Dozier Show, the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Shalas Awos account.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.